Claudia Murphy.
Hi.
How are you today?
I'm good. I'm good.
It's nice to meet you.
Thank you. You too. You too.
It's
We've
no-
talked on the phone so often. I felt like I knew you.
I feel the same way. Now, is it okay if I call you by your first name, or would you like to be called Mrs. Murphy?
Claudia will be just fine.
Okay. Okay. Alrighty. Is there any questions before we get started today?
No.
Okay.
No.
Alrighty. So I'm just going to ask you a few questions here, and I would like to know, why in particular do you want this job?
Well, I've been retired for a while. I'm a retired middle school English teacher, language arts teacher. And although I truly enjoy my retirement, I would like to stay engaged with teaching and helping children.
That's wonderful. That's good to hear.
Thank you.
Now, with the reason why you want this job, what type of work do you enjoy doing the most?
Well, I like being engaged. I like being engaged with children. I like being engaged with teaching and the teaching process. And I love the aha moment when they get it. So that's why I am applying for this job as an assistant to the children's librarian here at the Ohio Township Public Library. That's why, I am applying for that, because I kind of miss that. I really miss that.
Absolutely. So, a lot of people have strengths and weaknesses. What do you, towards their skills, what would you believe that are your strongest skills?
Well, I taught reading and writing skills. I spent a lot of time with writing skills so I think my strongest skill was writing, teaching writing.
Okay.
And I was also the speech coach for many years.
Okay.
And with that, there was a lot of drama and storytelling. So, and it's just, it was just a lot of fun. And I think that would really fit in with being an assistant to the children's librarian here.
Okay.
With the storytelling.
Okay, great. And a lot of people, people that I interview, they are expecting to have more of a long-term career goal with our company or our business. What are your long-term career goals, and how do you plan to achieve them?
Well, as I said before, I'm a retired teacher, but I do want to remain active. As the saying goes, if you don't use it, you'll lose it. So I just want to be viable. As far as the long-term goals are, I just want to work for as long as I can.
Okay. And do you think of yourself as a team player?
Well, my goodness, yes. I mean, at one time, a teacher plan period would be the teacher would just do all the planning by herself or himself.
Mm-hmm.
And then as life went on, our plan period became a team plan period. So I am accustomed to working with others. I am accustomed to working with others as a team.
And that's great. We love, everybody, we love it that we are big in people communicating with each other, making sure everybody understands everything clearly. So that's great. Now, sometimes people prefer to travel, and sometimes people prefer to stay where they're at. Now, do you have a geographic preference, or are you willing to relocate?
Well, I just really am interested in working here at the Ohio Township Public Library. However, if there's a need, for someone to substitute at some of the other branches, say for instance in Boonville or downtown Newburgh, I will be willing to do that, not on a regular basis, but I'm always willing to help out.
Okay. And we could always use, people to help out as well. Now, let's see here. We also have, okay, so there are a lot of different people have different management styles.
Mm-hmm.
What would you consider to be your management style that you work most productively?
Well, most happily, I will not be the manager for this job. I will be an assistant, the lead librarian is the one who will be in charge. But of course, I'm here to help and give whatever expertise I can. And it's also doing so, I will learn from her. I mean, things have changed, and there are a lot of things that I just may not know. So we'll just work together. But
the world is constantly changing. Society is constantly changing. So yes, that's great. Now, for you, what would be the most important to you in a company, and what are any kind of factors that you look for in a company?
Well, first of all, this library is important to me and to the community. I'm an active member of this library. I borrow books, I borrow DVDs, and I have taken some classes, and I just saw on the bulletin board that there's going to be a tech class, and I definitely want to do that. And when my 13-year-old grandson comes to visit during the summer, he always looks forward to participating in the youth programs. And so it's just a good place. It's just I just feel like I'm a good fit for this for the library.
Okay, great. And that's we always like to hear that more children and teenagers like to engage in those activities as well, just like your 13-year-old grandson. So that's great. Now, we're going to move on to, I hope you don't mind, I'm going to be asking you some behavioral and character questions. Now, how do you deal with, now a lot of times within a company or a business, you always come across those angry customers or angry coworkers. Now, how do you deal with an angry customer or an angry coworker, and do you have an experience?
Well, I guess I would just use the experience I had as a teacher. I remember sometimes parents would be angry at a situation that they thought happened at school because they would always get one side of the situation, they would get their child's side. And I've always, I know it's kind of crazy, but every day I would pretend like I was being videotaped in my classroom. And nowadays, with students having cell phones, that's a reality. But back in the day, that wasn't, you know.
Absolutely.
But I always pretended as if I was being videotaped. So I remember I had one parent, she was very much upset, and she came in, or she was at the door, and I just invited her in because I always felt like my classroom was an open classroom. I had nothing to hide. And fortunately, she became very much engaged in the lesson. And she was raising her hand, and then she gave her son what for when he got home, let him know that, no, I didn't, what you said, I did not see. And then with my students, sometimes the student will act up when they have the audience of the other classmates. So what usually worked for me, didn't do it too often, but I would give a detention where the student would have to come to my classroom after school, and just the two of us would be together. We had a detention program where they would have to stay after school and, the detention room. I didn't want to do the one-on-one because that was I was in detention, But a lot of times, especially if if we had some real personality problems, a lot of times just that one-on-one, talking with that student, I would learn that student, and then that student would learn me. because there were a whole lot of other things that were going on. It wasn't just the lesson of subjects and predicates and nouns and verbs. There was a lot of other things that were going on. So just getting to know that student personally, and the student getting to know me personally, that took care of a lot of anger. So I hope I answered your question.
No, absolutely you did. You did cover all the criteria. Now that's actually a very good answer for that question, because it's nice to hear how you as a teacher, how you dealt with your students when they were going through hard times.
Thanks.
So I appreciate that a lot. Now, sometimes there's change within a workplace. How are you able to adapt to change? And if you could possibly give me an example on how.
Well, I've had to adapt to a lot. I've taught elementary school. I've taught adult ed, middle school, and now at our church, I teach the nursery, 4-year-olds up to kindergarten.
Wow.
So I really had to adapt, to
a lot
that.
With different age groups.
Yes, with a lot of different age groups. So I think that will apply with this job. So I am working with the younger ones now. So I believe I can do that.
Okay, absolutely. And how would you describe yourself personally?
Well, I think I'm outgoing. I'm still interested in learning, and I'm still interested in sharing with others.
And everybody, I wouldn't say everybody, but a lot of people receive or think of rewards that they look for in a career. What rewards would you look for in your career?
Well, this is like another phase of my career. So I just say that being able to share again, like I said, I really enjoy my retirement, but it's kind of good to get out and share with others. Because like I said before, if you don't use it, you lose it. So I want to still remain viable.
And as far as accomplishments go, what accomplishment are you most proud of that particularly relates to your field?
I've been blessed. I've received several awards. I received from the Evansville Area Reading Council Reading Teacher of the Year. I was president of Alpha Delta Kappa World Chapter, and was really proud of the altruistic projects that we did. I've given many speeches on civil rights on TV and in classrooms, different places, and U of E, even at U of E. I was honored in the Evansville Living magazine. And along with all of that, my students have also received a lot of awards, and my speech team has received a lot of awards too. So I have received a lot of awards, and I'm happy about that.
That's great. A lot of accomplishments that you've accomplished, and that's great to hear. Now, what do you think are the most important characteristics and abilities a person must possess to be successful, in your opinion, and how would you rate yourself in those areas?
Well, I've always been dependable. There were times when I wasn't feeling well, and I went to work because I wanted to make sure that I could have time, be able to take time off when my children were ill. So I've always been dependable for attendance, and I've always given it my best. My lesson plans were always filled. I don't know. I just took my job seriously. When I was absent, my substitute teacher would have full lessons, so dependability and preparations. I think those are the most important things in order to be successful. And my principals, assistant principals, and all my teacher friends, they all appreciated that, and it just made me feel good knowing that I did the best I could for my job.
And that's great for us. It's important to us for you to be dependable, because there will be times that there are coworkers of yours that will not be able to make it in due to different situations. So that's a great factor, as well as you seem to be prepared for everything and anything, and so that's great to hear. Now we're going to do another section of these questions, and these are going to be more stress related questions. And the first one I would like to ask you would be, why do you think you are the best candidate for this job, and why should I hire you?
Well, I think I have many references, although you haven't asked for many, but I have many former students who are very successful. Anytime we go to the doctor's office, former students, just all over this area. I just went to a store just the other day, and they always say, are you a former teacher? And I can't remember, because it's been thousands of students, really. But that is the greatest reward. So I don't know if I answered your question on that,
You
but
did.
I could give you some references, I suppose. But my former students would let you know. Yeah, I could probably do this job.
Okay, that's for me, that tells me that when people or your former students have recognized you in that way, it shows who you are as a person and how you've helped them when they were your students. And
I don't know if they remember anything about nouns and verbs or anything like that, but I think they recognize the fact that I cared.
You cared, and you yes, you did, certainly did. And that's amazing to have somebody that is as down to earth and cares deeply. Now, I saw in your resume that you haven't really been through a lot of jobs, but I just wanted to ask you, why have you held the jobs that you had?
Okay. We moved here because my husband was transferred here. So we were here for a little while, and he got transferred again. So some of those jobs were because of his job transfer, but really, I stayed at home. I was a stay-at-home mom for a while, and then I slowly got back into the workforce when my children became a school age. So.
Okay. And as I mentioned before, that everybody has a strong skill set, and they also have their greatest weakness. So I'm going to ask you is, what is your greatest weakness?
Well, I enjoy life and just having fun, which is good. But sometimes with that, you can lose focus. I remember there was a couple of times when I had the class and had a group of students that were such a joy to teach. And maybe on that day, they might not have wanted to do the essay, and they knew how to just start talking about different subjects, and I would get into it too. And the next thing you know, time would be up, and they got me.
Oh, yes.
So it was.
I could see how that would happen too. And it's okay, because everybody does have a strength and a weakness, and I personally do have a strength and a weakness, so there's nothing to be ashamed of with that. Now, have you ever been fired from a job?
No.
Okay. And does your current employer know that you are planning to leave?
Well, it doesn't apply. My husband doesn't know that I'm looking for another job, so that's okay, and he's okay with that.
Now, there are some decisions that are easy for people and some decisions that are difficult. What kinds of decisions are most difficult to you?
Again, I guess I have to go back to teaching. This, taking care of discipline sometimes was a difficult decision, but what helped me was using a chart that I kept points on for good behavior and for misbehavior. And then that way the students could, they could really understand, when you just not treating me right, So, I don't really think that would be a problem with this job, because I've noticed in the children's section, a lot of times the parents come with their children, so, but I'm just talking about, when I did teach, discipline was the most difficult. Didn't happen all the time, but that would be a thing.
And it would be hard for you to try to discipline somebody else's child when,
and
I bet it was, because that would personally be difficult for me too.
Right.
So,
but I don't expect any of that with this job.
Now, this isn't really strictly a stress question, but what would be your salary range or expectation?
Well, I'm glad that it's a part-time job. I saw that on the flyer, what was required. And I was glad to see that I could work 3 days a week and not over 15 hours. And that really works in with my schedule, because I still have other things to do. So, I have other things at home or whatever. So it just seems like a really good fit for me. So that's why I decided that I would like to apply for this job.
Great. And that seems to end our interview. And I just wanted to tell you that it was a pleasure to interview you.
Thank you.
And to hear about your personal experiences and everything involving that. And it was very nice meeting you. And I will be actually contacting you within the next 2 to 3 days, and I will look over your resume and your cover letter once again and get everything in order. Once I have everything in order,